You are not exhausted because life has too many problems. You are exhausted because you keep trying to control things that were never yours to control. You want everything to happen at the right time. You want people to respond the way you expect. You want your plans to unfold without disruption. You want results to appear quickly enough to make you feel safe. But the tighter you hold on, the more chaotic your mind becomes. You check, wait, overthink, and drain yourself over something that has not happened the way you wanted. Here is the brutal truth. You are not losing your peace because life is out of control. You are losing your peace because you placed it in the hands of things outside of you. In this video, you will learn 7 Stoic principles to calm your mind, detach from outcomes, and focus your strength on the only things you can truly master: your actions, your attitude, and your response. Stay until the end, because the final principle will show you how to stop chasing what you want and start becoming the kind of person who is ready to receive it.
Most people do not realize how much of their daily suffering comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. You send a message, then keep checking your phone because you need a certain response. You prepare for an opportunity, but instead of focusing on your effort, you obsess over whether you will be chosen. You make a plan, and the moment life moves in a different direction, your mind treats it like a threat. This is how control quietly becomes anxiety. At first, it feels responsible. You tell yourself that you are being careful, prepared, or ambitious. But beneath that constant checking, planning, and overthinking is often a deeper fear, the fear that you will not be okay unless life follows your script. So you try harder to predict everything. You replay conversations before they happen. You imagine every possible rejection. You monitor other people's moods. You search for signs that your future is still safe. But the more certainty you demand, the more fragile you become. A delayed answer ruins your concentration. A small change in plans destroys your mood. Someone else's opinion makes you question your value. One unexpected setback convinces you that everything is falling apart. You are no longer responding to reality. You are reacting to the loss of control. And this comes with a price. You lose time because you keep thinking instead of acting. You lose energy because your mind is constantly preparing for battles that may never happen. You lose peace because you have tied your emotional state to outcomes, timing, and people you cannot command. The most dangerous part is that this pattern can look like dedication. You may believe that worrying proves you care. You may believe that overthinking protects you from disappointment. You may believe that controlling every detail will prevent pain. But worry does not give you control. It only makes you suffer twice, once in your imagination, and again if the event actually happens. The real problem is not that life is uncertain. Life has always been uncertain. The real problem is that you have trained your mind to treat uncertainty as something unbearable. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes practical. It does not promise that everything will go your way. It teaches you how to remain steady when it does not. Because peace does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from knowing that whatever happens, you will still control your judgment, your conduct, and your next move. And that is the shift we need to make now. Away from controlling life and toward mastering the person who must face it. The Stoics never taught people to become passive, emotionless, or indifferent to their goals. They taught something far more demanding. Give your full effort to what belongs to you and stop surrendering your peace to what does not. Epictetus built much of his teaching around a simple distinction. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Your choices, judgments, preparation, effort, and behavior belong to you. Other people's opinions, the timing of events, unexpected obstacles, and final outcomes do not. The idea sounds simple. Living by it is difficult. Most people reverse the order. They neglect their own choices while obsessing over external results. They spend hours worrying about whether they will succeed, but avoid the work that would make success more likely. They try to control how others see them, yet fail to control the words coming out of their own mouths. They demand certainty from the future while refusing to discipline themselves in the present. Stoic wisdom asks you to turn that pattern around. Before reacting, ask, is this mine to control? If the answer is yes, act with discipline. If the answer is no, meet it with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean pretending that disappointment does not hurt. It means refusing to waste your strength arguing with a reality that has already arrived. A storm does not stop because you resent it. A rejection does not reverse itself because you replay it all night. Another person does not become reasonable because you desperately need them to understand you. Reality does not negotiate with your expectations, but you still possess something powerful, the ability to choose the quality of your response. You can be rejected without abandoning your dignity. You can face delay without becoming desperate. You can lose a plan without losing your direction. You can feel disappointment without allowing it to decide what you do next. This is not emotional suppression. The Stoic does not deny fear, sadness, or frustration. The Stoic notices the emotion, creates distance from the first impulse, and then asks what reason and character require. That pause is where self-mastery begins. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to return to the task in front of him and to meet events according to their nature. He understood that resistance to reality only adds a second layer of suffering. First, something difficult happens. Then the mind declares that it should not have happened, that it must be fixed immediately, or that life cannot continue unless the outcome changes. The first pain may be unavoidable. The second is often created by judgment. This is why calmness is not weakness. Calmness is the refusal to let external events choose your inner state for you. From this point forward, do not ask, how do I make everything go my way? Ask a stronger question. How do I remain clear, disciplined, and honorable when it does not? That question will lead us into the first practical principle, because the moment you stop trying to control the entire outcome, you can finally direct your full strength toward the action in front of you. The first principle is simple. Stop making your peace depend on a specific outcome. Most people believe attachment gives them motivation. They think that if they want something badly enough, they will work harder, stay focused, and eventually force life to cooperate. But attachment often produces the opposite. The more desperately you need one result, the more fear enters your actions. You become tense, you rush decisions, you read too much into small setbacks. You begin measuring your value by whether the outcome is moving closer or farther away. A goal that once gave you direction starts controlling your emotional state. You see this in work. Someone prepares for an interview, but instead of focusing on answering clearly and presenting their experience well, they become consumed by whether they will be selected. You see it in relationships. Someone wants reassurance, so they send another message, explain themselves again, or try to force a conversation that the other person is not ready to have. You see it in personal growth. Someone expects visible progress immediately, and when change feels slow, they assume the process is failing. The mistake is always the same. They stop focusing on the quality of their action and start demanding certainty from the result. Stoic philosophy does not tell you to stop having goals. It teaches you to hold goals without allowing them to hold you. You may prefer success, but your character cannot depend on it. You may work toward recognition, but your self-respect cannot wait for someone else to provide it. You may hope a relationship survives, but you cannot abandon your dignity to keep it alive. This is what healthy detachment looks like. You care deeply, but you do not become desperate. You prepare seriously, but you do not pretend. Preparation gives you total control. You take action, but you do not tell yourself that only one outcome can make your life meaningful. Psychologically, attachment narrows your attention. Once your mind decides that only one result is acceptable, every delay begins to feel like danger. Every obstacle feels personal. Every alternative looks like failure. That is why people often perform worse when they become obsessed with winning. Their attention is no longer on the task. It is based on the fear of losing. A skilled athlete cannot perform well while mentally staring at the scoreboard. A A writer cannot create freely while imagining every possible criticism. A leader cannot make clear decisions while desperately trying to protect an image. Presence produces better action than obsession. The practical response is to separate your goal into two parts. First, write down the outcome you prefer. Second, write down the actions that belong entirely to you. For example, you may prefer to receive a promotion. But what belongs to you is arriving prepared, improving your skills, communicating clearly, and doing work you can respect. You may want someone to choose you, but what belongs to you is being honest, setting boundaries, and refusing to betray yourself for approval. You may want a project to succeed, but what belongs to you is showing up consistently, learning from feedback, and correcting what is within your reach. Then use this sentence before important action. I am committed to the effort, but I am not dependent on the outcome. That sentence does not remove ambition, it removes panic. And when panic leaves, you become more precise. You listen better, you respond instead of react. You notice opportunities that obsession would have hidden from you. Detachment is not the absence of desire. It is the refusal to let desire become your master. So ask yourself now, what outcome have you allowed to control your mood, your confidence, or your sense of worth? Name it clearly. Then decide what part of it truly belongs to you. Because once you release the result, you regain the energy required to perform the work. Your mind becomes restless whenever it tries to live in a moment that has not arrived. It imagines conversations that have not happened, losses that have not occurred, and failures that exist only as possibilities. Then it reacts to those imagined events as if they were already real. Your body becomes tense, your breathing changes, your attention disappears. You may be sitting safely in one room while your mind is fighting 10 different futures. This is one of the most common ways people lose control of themselves. They believe they are preparing, but they are often rehearsing fear. Preparation produces a plan. Overthinking produces more overthinking. Preparation asks, what can I do now? Anxiety asks, what if everything goes wrong? The Stoic response is not to demand that the mind stop producing thoughts. You cannot always prevent a thought from appearing, but you can refuse to follow every thought as if it were an instruction. When your mind moves too far into the future, return it to the next action. Not the entire plan, not the final result, not every possible obstacle, just the next action. If you are worried about a difficult meeting, prepare the first 3 points you need to communicate. If you are overwhelmed by a large project, open the document and work for 10 focused minutes. If you are waiting for someone to reply, put the phone down and return to the responsibilities that still belong to you. If you are afraid of failure, ask what can be practiced before the day ends. This sounds small, but it changes the entire direction of your attention. An anxious mind wants to solve the whole future at once. A disciplined mind solves the part of the present that is available. Marcus Aurelius often brought his attention back to the work directly in front of him. He understood that the mind becomes weaker when it scatters itself across memories, predictions, judgments, and imagined disasters. Your power does not exist tomorrow. It exists in the decision you make now. That is why the present moment is not merely a place of peace. It is the only place where discipline can happen. You cannot exercise tomorrow. You can only decide whether to stand up now. You cannot repair an entire relationship in your imagination. You can only decide whether your next message will be honest, respectful, and controlled. You cannot complete a year of work today. You can only complete the next meaningful block of effort. The present becomes powerful when you stop treating small actions as insignificant. Every calm response strengthens self-control. Every completed task strengthens discipline. Every moment you resist the urge to check, chase, or panic strengthens your ability to remain steady. This is how inner strength is built. Not through one dramatic decision, but through repeated returns to what is real. Use this practical reset whenever you notice your mind spiraling. First, stop moving for 3 seconds. Second, release the tension in your jaw and shoulders. Third, take one slow breath out. Then ask, what is happening right now? And what is the next useful action? Be precise. Do not say, I need to fix my life. Say, I need to make this phone call. Do not say, I have to become successful. Say, I need to finish this page. Do not say, I need everyone to understand me. Say, I need to communicate my position once, clearly. Specific action weakens vague fear. The mind often creates suffering by turning one problem into an entire identity. A setback becomes, my life is falling apart. A rejection becomes, I am not enough. A delayed result becomes, nothing is working. Bring the statement back to reality. This plan changed. This person said no. This result has not arrived yet. Those are facts. Everything else may be interpretation. The more accurately you describe the present, the less power fear has to exaggerate it. But remaining present does not mean ignoring the future. It means preparing for the future without abandoning the moment where preparation must occur. A Stoic does not refuse to plan. A Stoic refuses to be mentally consumed by what planning cannot control. So when your mind tells you that everything must be solved immediately, do not argue with it for an hour. Return to the body, return to the room, return to the task. Then do one thing well, because the future is not asking you to control it. It is asking you to meet it with the character you are building today. Worry often feels useful because it creates the illusion that you are doing something. You replay the conversation. You imagine what could go wrong. You check for updates. You study every possible outcome. You tell yourself that if you think hard enough, you may prevent disappointment. But worry is not preparation. Preparation ends with a decision, a plan, or an action. Worry keeps the mind moving without allowing the body to move forward. That is why you can spend hours thinking about a problem and still feel no closer to solving it. The mind does this because uncertainty is uncomfortable. It would rather create 10 painful scenarios than admit one simple truth. You do not know what will happen, so it keeps searching. It searches for signs in someone's tone. It searches for hidden meaning in a delayed reply. It searches for proof that the future will be safe. And when no proof appears, it creates another question. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I make the wrong decision? What if this never works? The questions change, but the pattern remains the same. Your mind is asking for certainty from a world that does not provide it. The Stoic response is not to become careless. It is to recognize when thinking has stopped serving action. Seneca warned against suffering more in imagination than in reality. That principle remains painfully relevant. Many people experience the same event dozens of times in their minds before it ever happens once in real life. They feel the rejection before they receive it. They live through the failure before they attempt the task. They grieve the loss before anything has been taken from them. And while they are mentally fighting these imagined futures, they neglect the only moment where they could improve their position. This is the hidden cost of worry. It steals energy from preparation and gives it to fear. You may believe that worrying proves how deeply you care, but caring and worrying are not the same. Caring leads you to act responsibly. Worrying leads you to repeat the same thought without producing a better response. Caring asks, what needs to be done? Worrying asks, how can I guarantee that nothing painful happens? You cannot make that guarantee. No philosophy, plan, relationship, or amount of success can remove every risk from life. What you can do is become stronger in the presence of risk. The next time you catch yourself spiraling, do not immediately believe that the problem requires more thought. First, test the thought. Ask yourself 3 questions. Is there new information? Is there a decision I can make? Is there an action I can take within the next 24 hours? If the answer is yes, write down the action and do it. If the answer is no, continuing to think is unlikely to create control. It will only create exhaustion. At that point, say to yourself, This thought has reached the end of its usefulness. Then, redirect your attention. Return to your work. Move your body. Clean the room. Take a walk without your phone. Do something concrete enough to bring your mind back into contact with reality. This is not avoidance. Avoidance refuses to face a problem. Stoic discipline faces the problem, identifies what can be done, and then refuses to keep feeding what cannot. You can also create a boundary around worry. Choose a 15-minute period during the day when you are allowed to examine the issue. Write down every concern. Separate facts from assumptions. Choose one useful response. When the thought returns later, remind yourself that it already has an appointment. This teaches the mind that every anxious impulse does not deserve immediate attention. You are not required to solve your entire future each time fear enters the room. Sometimes the strongest response is not another plan. It is the willingness to live without complete certainty. That willingness changes your behavior. You stop chasing reassurance from people who cannot give you peace. You stop checking for results every few minutes. You stop interpreting silence as rejection. You stop treating every delay as evidence that something has gone wrong. Most importantly, you stop allowing imagined outcomes to control real actions. Write this sentence somewhere you can see it. If there is an action, I will take it. If there is no action, I will release the thought. This is how you turn worry into discipline. Not by forcing the mind to become silent, but by refusing to reward every fearful thought with more attention. Because peace does not begin when uncertainty disappears. Peace begins when uncertainty is no longer allowed to command you. One of the fastest ways to lose your inner stability is to depend on other people to constantly reassure you. You want them to confirm that you are doing well. You want them to respond quickly, speak clearly, show interest, remove your doubts, and make you feel secure. When they do, you feel calm. When they do not, your mind begins to unravel. You reread messages. You analyze tone. You wonder whether you said too much or too little. You start changing your behavior to recover a sense of certainty. This is how emotional dependence often begins. Not with love, trust, or connection, but with the belief that another person must regulate your inner state for you. The problem is not that reassurance feels good. The problem is that once you need it, you become easy to control. A delayed response can ruin your day. A change in someone's mood can make you question your worth. A lack of praise can make you doubt work you were proud of yesterday. Your peace becomes unstable because it is attached to signals you do not control. Stoic philosophy asks you to build a stronger foundation. Other people may appreciate you, misunderstand you, support you, reject you, or remain uncertain about you. Their response matters in practical ways, but it cannot become the final authority on your value. You must learn to separate feedback from identity. Feedback can help you improve. Rejection can help you adjust. Silence can reveal information. But none of these should be allowed to define who you are. The moment you confuse another person's reaction with your personal worth, you begin negotiating against yourself. You explain more than necessary. You accept behavior you should question. You chase people who are becoming distant. You soften boundaries because you are afraid they may leave. You keep proving your intentions to people who have already decided not to understand you. All of this may look like effort, but underneath it is fear. The fear says, if they withdraw, I lose something essential. But what you often lose first is not the relationship, it is your self-respect. A Stoic does not become cold or detached from human connection. The goal is not to stop caring about people. The goal is to stop handing them complete authority over your emotional balance. A healthy connection says, I value your presence. Dependence says, I need your response in order to feel whole. Healthy communication says, I will express myself clearly. Anxiety says, I will keep explaining until you approve of me. Healthy love allows choice. Fear tries to control the outcome. The practical shift begins when you stop asking, how do I make them respond the way I need? Ask instead, what response from me would protect my dignity? Sometimes that means speaking honestly. Sometimes it means waiting without sending another message. Sometimes it means accepting that silence is already information. Sometimes it means stepping back from a dynamic that keeps you in a state of confusion. And sometimes it means walking away from someone whose behavior repeatedly damages your peace. Walking away is not always punishment. It can be recognition. Recognition that you cannot force consistency from an inconsistent person. Recognition that you cannot build trust alone. Recognition that love without respect is not enough. Recognition that your energy is a limited resource. When you feel the urge to chase reassurance, use this 4-step pause. First, name the feeling. Say, I feel uncertain, I feel rejected, or I feel afraid. Do not turn the feeling into a conclusion. Feeling rejected does not automatically mean you have been rejected. Feeling unimportant does not mean you have no value. Feeling anxious does not mean you must act. Second, identify the impulse. Do you want to send another message? Explain yourself again? Apologize without reason? Ask for reassurance you have already requested. Third, wait 30 minutes before acting. During that time, move your body, return to your responsibilities, and allow the first emotional wave to pass. Fourth, ask whether your next action comes from clarity or fear. If it comes from clarity, proceed calmly. If it comes from fear, delay it again. This practice creates space between emotional discomfort and self-abandonment. That space matters, because every time you resist the urge to chase, beg, explain, or prove yourself, you teach your mind a new lesson. I can experience uncertainty without betraying myself. That is inner strength. Not appearing unaffected. Not pretending you do not care. Not using silence as a weapon. Inner strength is caring without collapsing, communicating without begging, and accepting that another person's choice cannot take away your character. You do not need everyone to choose you. You need to stop abandoning yourself each time someone does not. A great deal of suffering comes from believing that the right thing must happen at the right time, according to your schedule. You tell yourself that by this age you should have achieved more. By now, the relationship should be clear. The opportunity should have arrived. The effort should have produced visible results. And when life moves more slowly than expected, you do not simply feel disappointed. You begin to question yourself. Maybe I am falling behind. Maybe I chose the wrong path. Maybe nothing is working. Maybe it is already too late. This is how impatience becomes self-doubt. The problem is not always that progress has stopped. Sometimes progress is happening in ways you cannot yet measure. Skills are developing. Character is being tested. Weak habits are being exposed. A poor direction is becoming impossible to ignore. But because the result is not visible, the mind concludes that nothing meaningful is happening. This is one of the most dangerous judgments you can make. Not every season of effort produces immediate evidence. Some periods are for building, some are for correcting, some are for waiting long enough to see whether your commitment is real or only dependent on quick rewards. The Stoic approach is not blind optimism. It does not tell you that everything will happen exactly as you hope. It asks you to stop confusing delay with defeat. A delayed result is not always a failed result. A closed door is not always proof that you lack value. A slower path is not automatically the wrong path. Sometimes the outcome is taking longer because your method needs improvement. Sometimes the delay protects you from entering something before you are ready. Sometimes the goal itself must change. Your responsibility is not to predict which explanation is true. Your responsibility is to continue observing reality honestly and acting with discipline. Patience does not mean repeating the same ineffective behavior forever. It means refusing to panic while you evaluate. Ask yourself, is the goal still aligned with my values? Is my current method producing evidence of progress? What feedback have I ignored? What must be changed? And what simply needs more time? These questions lead to adjustment. panic leads to abandonment or reckless action. You see this when people leave a good process because the reward is slow. They change direction every few weeks. They start a habit, fail to see immediate transformation, and quit. They begin building something meaningful, but the first period of silence convinces them that nobody cares. So they restart. Again and again. They remain busy, but they never stay in one direction long enough to become effective. The inability to tolerate slow progress can destroy more potential than a lack of talent, because almost every meaningful goal contains a period when the effort feels larger than the reward. You practice before anyone notices. You improve before anyone praises you. You build discipline before life becomes easier. You make better choices before the consequences become visible. This period reveals whether you are committed to the work or addicted to the result. A Stoic does not ask every day, "Has life rewarded me yet?" A Stoic asks, "Did I fulfill my responsibility today?" That question protects you from the emotional instability of constantly measuring your worth through external progress. Suppose you are trying to improve your health. You follow the plan for 2 weeks, but the mirror does not show the change you expected. The undisciplined mind says, "This is not working." The disciplined mind asks, "Did I keep the commitments that are within my control? Is the plan reasonable?" What does the evidence show over a meaningful period? Suppose you are building a career. You work, learn, and apply, but opportunities remain limited. Desperation may tempt you to compare your timeline with everyone else's, but comparison removes context. You see another person's result. You do not see their preparation, advantages, failures, sacrifices, or timing. Their path cannot tell you what your next action should be. Your next action must come from your own reality. This is why patience requires courage. It takes courage to continue when nobody is applauding. It takes courage to adjust without calling yourself a failure. It takes courage to let a goal develop without digging it up every day to see whether it has grown. Use a longer measurement window. Instead of asking every day whether your life has changed, evaluate the process after 30 days. Track what you can control: hours practiced, applications sent, workouts completed, pages written, difficult conversations handled well, promises kept. Do not track only applause, income, attention, weight, praise, or approval. Those outcomes matter, but they are delayed indicators. Your actions are immediate indicators. Create 2 records. The first is the outcome record. This contains the results you hope to see. The second is the integrity record. This contains the actions you promised to take. When the outcome is slow, return to the integrity record. It will show whether you are truly stuck or simply impatient. If the record is empty, you do not need more belief. You need more action. If the record is consistent, you may not need a new direction. You may need more time. This distinction prevents you from using patience as an excuse and prevents you from using impatience as a weapon against yourself. There is another reason people try to force timing. They believe a delayed result means they are losing control. So they rush conversations. They demand answers. They make desperate decisions. They try to turn uncertainty into certainty before reality has provided enough information. But forced clarity is often false clarity. A person pressured into giving an answer may tell you what ends the conversation, not what is true. A decision made in panic may relieve tension for one day and create regret for months. A goal pursued with desperation may cause you to ignore warning signs you would have seen in a calmer state. Sometimes restraint is more intelligent than speed. When you feel the urge to force an outcome, use this question: am I acting because the moment requires action, or because I cannot tolerate waiting? The answer may be uncomfortable, but it can save you from many unnecessary mistakes. Then choose one of 3 responses. Act if there is a clear responsibility in front of you. Adjust if the evidence shows that your method is failing. Wait if the situation needs time and no useful action is currently available. These are 3 different forms of discipline. Waiting is not doing nothing when action is required. It is refusing to create harmful action merely to escape discomfort. You do not need life to move faster in order to become stronger. You need to stop using delay as proof that your effort has no value. Keep your standards. Review the evidence. Correct your method. Continue the work. And let time reveal what force never could. Because some outcomes arrive only after you become patient enough to stop destroying the process that could have produced them. Many people believe they are waiting for the right moment, but what they are really waiting for is the disappearance of discomfort. They want confidence before they begin, certainty before they decide, and motivation before they work. But readiness rarely comes first. Action comes before confidence. Practice comes before certainty. Discipline comes before motivation. The person you want to become is not waiting on the other side of a perfect emotional state. That person is built each time you move, while doubt is still present. This is where many people remain stuck. They mistake hesitation for wisdom. They tell themselves they need more time, more information, or a better plan. Sometimes that is true, but often fear is simply wearing the mantle of preparation. You may spend days researching a task that requires 1 hour of real work. You may keep planning a change because planning feels safer than beginning. You may wait for motivation, even though motivation often appears after movement. The mind prefers delay because delay protects the ego. If you never begin, you never have to discover your current level. If you never try, you cannot fail publicly. If you never choose, every possibility remains open. But every time you obey hesitation, you make hesitation stronger. The Stoic approach is different. You do not ask whether the action feels comfortable. You ask whether it is necessary, reasonable, and within your control. If it is, you begin. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but deliberately. Large goals create vague pressure. Vague pressure creates avoidance. Avoidance creates guilt. And guilt makes the task feel even larger. The way out is to reduce the action until it becomes undeniable. Do not tell yourself to complete the entire project. Open the file and work for 10 minutes. Do not tell yourself to transform your body. Put on your shoes and walk outside. Do not tell yourself to repair your entire life. Make the call, send the application, or write the first paragraph. Small action is not weakness. Small action is how resistance is broken. There is a difference between lowering the standard and lowering the starting point. You do not lower the standard of the person you want to become. You make the first step small enough that fear can no longer use the size of the task as an excuse. Once movement begins, the task becomes specific. The fear becomes measurable. The uncertainty becomes information. Action reveals what thought alone cannot. Use this rule whenever you feel stuck. Reduce the task, define the time, and begin before your mind can negotiate. Choose a useful action that takes 10 or 15 minutes. Set a clear starting time. Then begin without checking your mood first. Suppose you need to have a difficult conversation. You cannot guarantee how the other person will respond. But you can prepare your message, choose a respectful tone, and speak clearly. Suppose you are rebuilding after failure. You may want confidence before trying again. But confidence is often the result of keeping small promises after your confidence has been damaged. Begin with one promise small enough to keep today. Then keep it. That is how identity is rebuilt. Not through motivation, but through evidence. Each completed action gives your mind evidence that you can trust yourself. This does not mean acting recklessly. Stoic action is deliberate. You gather enough information to make a responsible choice, then stop using preparation as a hiding place. Ask yourself, what would I do next if I did not require myself to feel confident first? The answer is usually simple. You would begin. You would make the call, submit the work, say no, return to the routine. Build a system that works under imperfect conditions. Choose a minimum action for difficult days. Decide the time and place in advance. Track whether you showed up, not whether the session felt perfect. On strong days, you may do more. On weak days, you still keep the agreement. That is self-mastery. You do not ignore your emotions. You listen to them without placing them in command. So choose one action you have been delaying. Make it smaller. Give it a starting time. Complete the first part before the day ends. You do not need to feel ready. You need to prove that your values can move your body even when your feelings refuse to cooperate. Because the strongest version of you will not be discovered while you wait. It will be built in the moment you begin. There comes a point when trying harder no longer means acting better. You can push, chase, explain, and control every detail, yet still move farther away from the peace you are seeking. This happens because force changes the quality of your actions. You stop acting from purpose and start acting from fear. You stop communicating clearly and start trying to control the other person's response. You stop working with discipline and start demanding immediate proof that your effort will succeed. The more desperate you become, the more your behavior begins to contradict the person you want to be. You may say you want respect, yet keep begging people to understand you. You may say you want peace, yet continue entering arguments that leave you exhausted. You may say you want discipline, yet change the plan every time progress feels slow. You may say you want a healthy relationship, yet accept confusion and repeated disrespect because you are afraid of being alone. Your life is shaped by the behavior you repeat, not by the future you imagine. From a Stoic perspective, the stronger question is not, how do I make this come to me? It is, what kind of person must I become to handle it well? You may want greater responsibility. Are you becoming more reliable? You may want inner peace. Are you removing yourself from avoidable chaos? You may want stronger relationships. Are you learning to communicate honestly and hold clear boundaries? You may want success. Are you building the discipline required to continue when motivation disappears? Desire without alignment creates frustration. Alignment means your daily conduct supports the life you claim to want. This does not guarantee that every preferred outcome will arrive. Stoic philosophy never offers that promise. It offers something more dependable. Even when the outcome changes, the person you have built remains. Your discipline remains. Your judgment remains. Your ability to begin again remains. That is why character must become more important than acquisition. If your peace depends on gaining one specific thing, you will always be afraid of losing it. But if your peace is rooted in how you live, success can be appreciated without becoming your master, and failure can be endured without destroying your identity. Choose one thing you deeply want. Then ask, what qualities would this require from me? If you want a stronger body, the qualities may be consistency and patience. If you want a better career, you may need focus, courage, and the willingness to learn. If you want a peaceful relationship, they may be honesty, self-respect, and emotional control. If you want a calmer mind, the qualities may be attention, acceptance, and the discipline to stop feeding every anxious thought. Now choose one behavior that expresses one of those qualities today. Do not say, I want to become disciplined. Say, at 7 tonight, I will work for 20 minutes without checking my phone. Do not say, I want stronger boundaries. Say, the next time this behavior happens, I will state my limit once and leave if it continues. Do not say, I want peace. Say, for the next hour, I will not check for a response I cannot control. This is how you stop chasing an identity and start practicing it. The result may still take time. The world may not immediately reward your effort. Some people may resist the boundaries that protect you. But your inner life will already be changing because your actions are no longer controlled by desperation. This is the final shift. You stop asking life to prove that you are worthy. You live in a way that you can respect. You stop forcing people to recognize your value. You stop behaving beneath your values to keep them. You stop waiting for the perfect result to give you peace. You create peace through the quality of your conduct. Before your next important decision, ask, Does this action belong to the person I am trying to become or to the fear I am trying to escape? Then choose the action that protects your character, because the life you want is not built by how intensely you desire it. It is built by what you repeatedly do while the result remains uncertain. Understanding these ideas is not enough. You can agree with everything in this video and still wake up tomorrow doing the same things, checking, chasing, overthinking, forcing, and waiting for certainty. That is why you need a system. For the next 7 days, use this Stoic reset to separate what belongs to you from what does not. Every morning, write down 3 things. First, what is within my control today? Be specific. Your effort, your preparation, your tone, your attention, your boundaries, your next action. Do not write, I will make the meeting go well. Write, I will prepare my key points and speak clearly. Do not write, I will make them understand me. Write, I will communicate honestly and stop explaining once my position is clear. Second, what is outside my control today? This may include another person's opinion, the final result, unexpected delays, or whether someone chooses to respond. Write it down, then add 1 sentence. I will not spend today fighting what does not belong to me. Third, what is the minimum action I will complete even if I do not feel ready? Choose something measurable. 10 minutes of focused work, 1 difficult phone call, 1 workout, 1 clear boundary, 1 hour without checking for a response. This becomes your non-negotiable action for the day. Whenever you notice yourself losing control, use the 3-second reset. Stop. Release your jaw and shoulders. Take 1 slow breath out. Then ask, am I responding to reality or reacting to fear? If there is a useful action, take it. If there is no useful action, return to the present task. Do not reward anxiety with endless analysis. Every evening, answer 3 questions. Where did I try to control something outside myself? What did that behavior cost me? What would a calmer response look like next time? Do not use this review to shame yourself. The purpose is awareness. You are looking for patterns. Maybe silence makes you chase reassurance. Maybe delay makes you abandon a good plan. Maybe uncertainty makes you explain too much. Maybe fear makes you wait for confidence instead of acting. Once the pattern becomes visible, it becomes easier to interrupt. At the end of each day, do not ask only, did I get what I wanted? Ask, did I behave like the person I want to become? You may not receive the answer you wanted. You may not see immediate progress. You may still feel uncertain. But if you acted with discipline, clarity, and self-respect, the day was not wasted. For the next 7 days, use this commitment. I will give my full effort to what is mine and release what is not. Read it before difficult conversations. Repeat it when your mind begins to chase certainty. Then, prove it through action. Because self-mastery is not built by one powerful realization. It is built every time you choose discipline over panic, presence over prediction, and character over control. You do not need to control everything in order to feel secure. You need to become someone who can remain steady when life refuses to follow the plan. That is the real promise of Stoicism. Not a life without uncertainty, not a future without disappointment, not a world where people always understand you or effort always produces immediate results. The promise is stronger than that. You can train yourself to stop collapsing every time reality does not match your expectations. You can care deeply without becoming desperate. You can pursue a goal without allowing it to control your identity. You can feel fear without letting fear make the final decision. You can lose an outcome without losing your character. The moment you understand this, your life begins to change. You stop forcing answers. You stop chasing people who keep you confused. You stop treating delay as defeat. You stop using worry as proof that you care. You stop waiting to feel ready. And you stop measuring your worth by results that were never fully yours to command. Instead, you return to what belongs to you. Your effort, your attention, your boundaries, your words, your next action. That is your territory. Take responsibility for it, then release the rest. Before this video ends, choose one thing you have been trying to force. A response, a relationship, a result, a timeline. Write it down, then divide it into 2 parts. What belongs to me? What does not? Take one action from the first part today. Release one demand from the second. If this message speaks to you, write this commitment in the comments. I control my response, not the outcome. Do not write it as a slogan. Write it as a decision. Subscribe to Orion Resolve if you are serious about building a Stoic mindset, stronger discipline, clearer boundaries, and a mind that cannot be controlled by every external event. And in the next video, we will go deeper into how to stop overthinking at night when your mind refuses to let the day end. Remember this: you do not become free when life finally obeys you. You become free when life no longer needs to obey you for you to remain at peace.